Good afternoon, good afternoon. This is Spirit Journey. Good afternoon. Today is August 7, 2019, and it's now 5:17 p.m. I want to talk to you about my experience today. I was doing someone a favor, and I was getting information about getting what they call a home health aide. And the whole experience, yes, good afternoon, viewer. I hope you're having a good day. And I invite you to say a hello in the chat room. Yes, today I want to talk to you about my experience when I went to look for information on home health aide. And it was very interesting, and it was very, very reminiscent of the days of when I was just starting out. And I did many different occupations. And my initial job starting out was clerical work. And then I slowly moved up, was a clerk, and then I was a secretary, then administrative assistant on the executive level. And it reminds me of the day, like when I went to two agencies. Well, actually one agency, and then the other was a broker. So this video really is about warning people, warning the Black community in specific regarding what I feel what's happening. In a nutshell, the main message that I'll say up front is that Blacks in America better get the training that they need to get a very good paying job. You have to stop, you're spending so much of your monies in the church on your hair and nails, and nothing wrong with looking good. That's very important. But all this money is being sucked out of your community and it's going into the hands of others. And these others are the ones whose children are going into colleges and are being employed in these better paying jobs. Okay, that's the message up front. So let me tell you what I did. I went on the internet to get addresses for agencies that employ home health aides. And so I went to one that's not too far from where I live. And it was on the west side in Manhattan. I live in Manhattan in New York City. And the office inside, the person who greeted me was a lighter skinned Black woman, a caramel color. She was pleasant, and I told her why I came there, and that I'm seeking to get information on getting a home health aide / companion. And she told me that she'll get someone and to take a seat, and she asked if I wanted water. She was pleasant. But I noticed in the room next to me, it was a very small room, and the room had all Black women. These women looked, and again, to be a home health aide, there's nothing wrong of going into an occupation that you qualify for, and it's your desire to go in because you love helping people. So it's not a poo-poo on those people who serve in that field with pride. It's not about that. It's not about those people, but about those who are entering that field because they can't find anything else. And so in this room, it was a cramped room with all the women were very overweight, dark complexion, and they were wearing casual clothes, not like business attire, just clothes from off the street. And they were doing some paperwork or something. It just had a very kind of sad atmosphere, and it didn't look. The room didn't look nice. It just, everything was just functional, and it wasn't what some agencies that I'm used to seeing. But either way, I noticed them sitting in the room. It was about maybe 10 women in there. And then eventually the woman that I was to see comes out, because the receptionist had gotten up to get the person who was to talk to me. So the receptionist calls over the woman in question, and then the receptionist points at me. Now I'm the only one that's sitting down in the waiting area. It was a small waiting area, and then there was a woman, a black woman, standing in between me and the receptionist. And she's like looking, stretching her neck, trying to see, who, rather than just walking over. I'm the only one that's sitting down. And so again, maybe I'm wrong, but what it kind of looked like, it looked like that, see, I'm a person of color. I'm a black woman. And so everyone who's working there is in the health field, and they're all black women. So I get the impression that she thought that when she saw me that I was a potential home health aide person, looking for a job in that, and not that I was the client. So she does eventually walk over to me, and she gives her name. I stand up, and then we shook hands. The woman was pleasant, but that was just my initial first impression. And again, I really don't blame her to assume, like, if all who you see out there are all black women or West Indian women or African women are there to do that type of work, and let's say none of the clients are who are looking are black, so you just you get kind of brainwashed, and it can happen to anyone, and I could do the same thing. We start to generalize, but either way, okay. So we sit in another room, and we spoke for a while. And she seems to really know. She was very tentative, and I shared with her what I was looking for, and that I'm helping someone out who asked me to do this for them. And she gave me information about what the agency does, etc. So in short, I got information. She gave me a brochure, and I left it. The whole process was like 1 hour. I told her that I will be, I'm just looking around first. I'm not going to make a decision right away, but I want to just, know what's out there. And this is the first time I'm doing something like this, I told her. But everything was positive. But it's that first impression, going in that room and seeing, I didn't expect to see just black women, and it just threw me off guard. I expected, I don't know, just if it's an agency, there's all different types of agent. There might be people who are looking to be, work as a registered nurse, or you want to call it a traveling nurse. All different types of healthcare professionals. But when I saw that room, it just, again, see, when I first started out, when I was like in my late teens, early 20s, and I remember back then, back in those days, this is going almost 40 years ago. So yes, this is a while ago. Yes, it's thundering right now. Okay, this is going way back in this year was, that year was 1983, 84, that time period. So that's a while back, 35 plus years. But I had gone to this agency, and back then, yes, people went to employment agencies, and also back then you were able to go directly to the business. If it's a bank or publishing house, whatever, back then they had what they call human resources or the personnel department, and you go in and you fill out an application, they test you, they interview you, but let's say you were responding to an ad in the newspaper, and a lot of times companies may not have facilities to do interviews, so they use an employment agency to screen out, and then the potential candidates, they bring them over to be interviewed by the company directly, once they get through the screening. So I go into this one agency, and then again I notice on one side of the corridor, behind the glass doors, all very young black women. And black women young black women, these looked like teenagers, late teens, early 20s. I was a little older than them back then, at that specific time when I was noticing. But back then I was very naive about a lot of stuff as it pertains to race. But I knew there were problems out there. And so, but life was teaching me, to start opening your eyes and really see what's going on. And so I think very logically. And so I didn't understand how in one room, exclusively young black women, they all, I remember, they were dark complected, and back then blacks were skinny. It was something. All the women, they were very thin, I remember. But nowadays it's the opposite. They're all very heavy. And so, not all, but the majority of them that I saw, they were all heavy set. So they again, these young ladies from back in the day, they were just sitting there, and it was massive, a number of them, just sitting there, just waiting. And again, their attire was streetwear, not business attire. No black men also. That was another thing I noticed. No black men. And then on the opposite side of the corridor were, that was the door I was to go into for permanent employment. A lot of white, the mass majority were whites, and it's male and female, okay? And people were wearing business suits, the men wearing business suits and ties, and the ladies wearing dresses, closed-toe heel shoes. Complete opposite on the other side of the young ladies wearing more street attire. And it's like, wow, what is this? So that's what my impression was, what it reminded me of. So after I left fast forward now, I leave the employment agency that specializes in the healthcare, and then I had to get the address of another place. And this place was uptown on 125th Street in Harlem. And to find out that that location does not get clients and to provide them, someone to hire. They said, no, you have to go in another location. And that was way, 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 way downtown. So I go way downtown. And then the person at the front desk was very pleasant. It was a man. And the company, like what's happening now in New York City, you have people who are building managers. And so they serve as a buffer for people who are coming into the building and to direct them where a place is, or they use as maybe a receptionist. And so I initially saw this person is very pleasant, and they had you had to take your driver's license, and then you have to place it on top of this table, and it takes a photo of your driver's license, and then you have to type in the person that you're looking to speak with, and then it spits out a card. I think that's how it went, or something. They say, okay, once you do that, take a seat. And so eventually, the person that I was to see comes out, and they said the name of the agency, what I thought was an agency. And so I raised my hand, and another person raised their hand. And then when it was my turn, I was the second one. And I said, they asked me what I wanted, and I said, I'm looking for to hire a home health care person. And the person thought I was an agency. Okay, so what happened there was, see, this place that I thought was an agency that specialized in health care providers was not an agency, but a go-between. There's a term for it, a middleman. And so people who are looking for work go to them, and then they, in turn, that place sends them and directs them to go to an agency that specializes in what they're doing. So it's like, wow. So what's happening now is people are tapping into black people's money, or anybody's money. I mean, if anyone went to that go-between, they would have to encounter the same thing. But it's just telling, okay, that, see, blacks in New York, jobs are hard to come by. And so a black person, I don't know, well, somehow they're being directed to go to this place, a middleman, rather than going directly to the agency who specializes in healthcare. They get a cut, and then the agency that they're going to be sent to gets a cut. So that's more and more money being taken away from the black individual. Okay, and that's also why I'm doing this video, because see, money is being siphoned off of you, and you're not, and your labor, I feel at times, is being exploited. You're not reaping the bounty of your labor, but everybody else is. Okay, so that's a concern to me. Okay, again, you have the freedom to go to anywhere you want to go to look for work. Okay, that's your freedom. And if that's your freedom, again, there's a price to pay. We have to do our homework. And I don't want us to get in a pity party, and I have to watch myself to not get in a pity party. See, any individual has to do their research, okay? So this is to really more as an advisory to blacks, to West Indians, to Africans. Those are primarily the people who are going into these fields. Also, when I went into the first agency, the first employer, Not the go-between, but the first one I said that I mentioned earlier that I went to. These individuals looked like people who were not from the U.S. My impression, again, I didn't talk to them, they didn't talk to me. They're just sitting there. Excuse me. But my impression, by the way that they looked, that they're from somewhere else. And so you have new people who are being brought into the States from black countries, entering basic work. And again, to be a home health aide, you require to get a certificate, and there is a check. They do check your background. And so you can't be an illegal in the field to work for that agency. What else? But I just started asking myself questions, okay? You have to ask questions. See, I'm that type of thinker. I always ask. Sometimes I think too much, and it gets the best of me. But it's just my instincts. Now, all things being equal, again, it's your choice what type of work you do. And it's not a poo-poo on anybody's field, because see, we all have to respect labor. We have to respect all forms of labor, okay? So I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody. What you want to do, your passion, do it. Do it to your best, and serve the person that you're doing work for. You know, it's important. And being a home health care provider is something essential, because people are getting older. We all get older, and sometimes we get sick. And so you want that person, that professional, to whether they come to your home, you need that help. So it has to be a mutual respect. Okay, I just feel that's important to say, because I'm not here to poo-poo anybody's career. But again, what my instincts are now. I look at these people who my instincts are telling me are from other countries, and some that could have been American blacks. But let's just say all of them were immigrants, and they entered this field. How is that you have people from other countries, plenty in New York City from, other countries than black people, blacks from other countries, and somehow, they may not know English, their parents and the kids come here at a young age, or some of them are born here, but their parents don't speak English. And they get into Ivy League schools. They get into high-paying jobs, okay? And I'm not going to even say where they're coming from, because I don't want to sound like I'm being biased against them. See, it's okay to be what you are, but see, when you measure for measure, what's going on? If we're all equal, and if we all have free access to go to a high school, then to apply for college, and then postgraduate, and all those things, if it's a free world, why is the job market looking like what it does to me? So this also reminds me of something that I saw. This was this is going way back. This incident I'm going to mention, or experience I should say, was, right after 9/11, so that's 2002, around that time, 2002, 2003. And what happened, I used to, again, I did many different occupations, okay? And at this time period, and this was my last type of work that I've done, I used to work in security as a security guard. Not for a long time though. But our client, the client that I worked for, I worked at one part of the day. I have to work the front desk and in the lobby and make sure that who's, that the people who's supposed to be going through those doors are supposed to go through those doors. And I saw one time these young ladies, they looked beautiful. It could have been 8 ladies. They were 3 white ladies and, 4 white ladies and 4 East Asian ladies. So East Asia, I mean people who could be from Korea or China or Japan. That type of appearance. Again, I don't know these ladies. I didn't, it's just appearance-wise. And they were all dressed alike. They were very polished. Now, the client there was a bank. I'm not going to mention names of anything, any company, but it was a leading bank. And what else? They're wearing a black dress and a jacket, if I remember. They looked really nice. Pantyhose, their hair impeccable. They dressed very, very, very executive. And I think they were going, I forget why they were there. They were to come at a certain time. They came a little early, the ladies, and they all came together. And the client that I worked for, now I have access to the whole floor because I have to do my rounds. And so you know who's what, because you have to go through the rounds and you see who works there. And when the people come in, so I worked graveyard shift also. And so I see everyone who's entering onto that floor, what they are, what they look like. And they had maybe 2 blacks. No, 3, 1 black female, very young, and 2 black males. Oh, you hear that thunder? Yes. And that's it. And the majority of the people were white. They had 1 Asian man, South Asian guy. Yeah, my little doggy got scared. It's okay, baby. Yeah, so what happened, so these ladies come in, and then eventually, they were brought inside. And I said to myself, I forget what their major was. I think there was some brief talk that I had with them or something, or I was hearing them talk about something. Oh, it could have been in like accounting, something with numbers. And I said to myself now, I'm saying to myself now, okay, so no black people want to go into accounting or finance. There's no black person that they can find in all of New York City in this position. Just those ladies. You get people from other countries, and it's usually this particular country that the trend now in New York City, by observation-wise, who are being hired for these nice, jobs in very plush offices, and how they're able to learn how to dress. See, when I first started the job market, I didn't know how to dress for a private, a private industry job. My very, very first job was working for the city, and you can dress any which way back then. But the private industry, you have to dress, and back then, at least the industry that I was in it's conservative. I was in finance. That's what I landed in. So it was finance, banking, investment companies, and I did work in other industry as well. But that was my initial exposure. So I had to learn by watching the girls who, the type of positions that I would want to go for, what the illusion of what I wanted to go for. I studied how they dressed, everything. I studied how they did their hair, makeup, clothing. I had to learn. See, what I noticed is that time in the 1980s that I told you about, when the employment agency on one side was all young black women wearing street clothes, and then the opposite office on the same company, and they have all white people wearing business suits. See, what I'm gathering. Oh, also I have to say that the room that had all the young black females, that was temp. That's what I forgot to say. That was a temp agency. So how come the blacks aren't going for the full time? I was going into the permanent placement. But down the road, when I lost employment, and you just want to get something quickly, so you go in through temp, and a lot of times with temp, if they like the way you work, you get hired permanently, and that has happened to me as well. So I'm thinking that, see, part of the problem is that American blacks and new arrivals from the Caribbean in particular, people of color from the Americas, we don't know how to dress for the corporate world because our schools do not train us how to dress for those parts, because they don't want you to learn how to dress for success for those type of jobs. So they steer you away. But somehow the white counterpart and this other ethnic group seem to somehow know how to, even if this other demographics is not even from here, but somehow they get to learn how to dress corporately and are getting their degrees from very prestigious universities. How come the blacks from other countries, how come they aren't in same type of number getting into these prestigious schools? How come they don't look like they're being groomed to dress for these corporate jobs and, let's say, financing? Why is this? Because it's by design. They don't want you to know how to do. Okay? What also it looks like to me is that people are being, like, blacks, West Indians, other people from people of color from the Americas, and also Africa. See, this is what I speculate is that there is social engineering going on. Social engineering. Social engineering in this context has to do with the black people being redirected away from certain industry or certain types of jobs. Again, for example, when I had left my civil service job to go away to school, and I was only away for one semester, then I came back and I had to look for work. And so I saw an ad in the Sunday New York Times, and it was at a bank. And again, I didn't really, I wasn't intimidated about what job I should apply for. But I think in hindsight, it was a job really for someone with a college degree. But I had college, but I didn't have a degree yet at that time. But either way, I was very green, very naive, and just, I see a job, job posted in the New York Times. So I got my resume and got dressed and went directly to the company, into their human resources. And there, there was a black man in the office. He was pleasant. And I said, oh, I'm here to apply for this job that I saw in the Sunday New York Times. Oh, I heard about this other job and blah, 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 blah. See, again, being redirected. Hey, maybe you might want to work over here. So I was, how old was I? 20 years old, I think, at that time. I didn't know anything there. I was really, really green, very inexperienced. And I said, okay. So that department, back then, this was also a leading bank. Again, I'm not going to mention names, but back then, things were highly segregated. Companies segregated. They segregate by department. They don't want any blacks in certain departments. They mostly like black people back then to work in like a work pool. You have tons of people and it's rush, 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 rush. Or a phone center, okay? Because they don't want white people to see the face of a black person. Okay, I'm saying what it is, what it was back then. During my experience, just starting out, and so this department that I was being redirected in was a designated department for black people, but it was a little better than just entry level because I had work experience. It was a good job, but again, in a pool situation, a lot of work. It was a lot of work, and virtually everyone there is a black, West, from the Caribbean, and then the the supervisor and the VP were also black women. And then who were above them were whites. One of them was really nice, though. And also back then, the whites that you have to work with were always of the same ethnicity. So let's say if the white people were Irish, then all of them were Irish. If they were Italian, then all of them were Italians. Because back then, it was a lot of nepotism. Nepotism is about hiring your family or relatives, okay? And that's what my experience was. So it was a good job, especially for someone just really starting out in the private sector. But again, see what I'm getting at? That blacks back then were being redirected because I went there specifically to apply for a particular job that was advertised. But see, he knew, not because they're being told. I expect that they're being told that don't bring any blacks in there. If a black person comes in, if they dress nice, whatever, redirect them somewhere else, another department, but not here. And when I did get the job, and I had to walk into other departments near my department, and some of them were exclusively white. Exclusive. And those were the more prestigious. It was the same work. One was for, I worked with, municipal bonds. And the other office that was exclusively white was corporate bonds. We do the same thing. It's just who the owner of those, who is the issuer, I think it was, the issuer of the bonds. So, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was like. And that's when I started really noticing differences. How come people who look a certain way are in one facet of life, and people who look like me, other black women or black people, whether they're from the West Indies or American blacks or an African, why is it that we always put in these locations of not polish, and we work long hours, and some of the treatment? See also that the black area, the areas that handle the non-whites, that sometimes you're treated more harshly. I've seen white people being treated harshly too when they mess up big time. I've seen a ball out once. Yep. So it's not just black people being yelled at. I've seen I've seen things. So, but so I do this video. Here it's 2019. It's 2019 August, and here I see the same pattern as what I saw almost 40 years ago, and it's like being revisited in the city. And again, the disparities in the work office. Black people, what I gather from today is that black people are being dumbed down. We're being redirected to work in certain fields. And even me, when I went into the security field, security guard work. Now, I was doing, before that, retail. And I couldn't find work in retail. Something happened. I couldn't find it. I needed to get a job right away. And so an acquaintance of mine said, hey, I just started doing security work. Hey, it's real easy. Hey, why don't you try it? I know they're really looking for people now. And this was right after 9/11, with the World Trade Center incidents, So I did it. Yeah, they're looking for a lot of people, all right. But the type of people that they get in there, even within the field of security, you have high security, and then you got the mainstream security guards. And who do you see? It's predominantly people of color, blacks, West Indians, and Puerto Ricans. Okay, that's who they get into it, and they use oftentimes in very rough neighborhoods. And then they do have like security guards that have weapons. Now that could be either. They can get both whites and black for that, but you need a license, a gun license. And so you're going to have a different caliber of people when you have that license for a gun. But just notice. And so I see a world in New York City that's being shaped before my very, very eyes. And what I see in the near future, again, a separation of race, but by race. If you're black or West Indian or Hispanic from the Caribbean, you're going to be doing a lower level work, and your bosses will be people from other nations and whites. These other people are being groomed for high-paying jobs, management, things like that. So they're bypassing blacks, American blacks. They're not training you to get in these positions. So here you're in the Americas for many, many, many generations, and then you have someone new coming, being groomed, being taught how to dress for the corporate world, being tutored and properly schooled to get good grades or get into good schools and get accepted into top-notch colleges and universities. And so when the recruiters come, they come to those universities. Some employers only select Ivy League schools. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what is this? So I feel very strongly that American blacks in particular, who I'm addressing this video to, You have to wake up. You have to start waking up. See, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on everybody else but yourself. You're spending all your money, and it's going into other people's pocket who are going to be your bosses, who really don't respect your money. You know, I went to an establishment yesterday, and I was surprised that it seemed like everybody who was coming into there, that I went to a place that sells beads, you know, that you make necklaces. Everybody who seemed to be coming in were black. And the people whose business it was another race of people. And they were not really friendly. They kind of nippy. I go there all the time. You know, when I have to do a project, that's the place I go to. But I see some people. Well, it seems like, in my opinion, at times, that places that seem to get a lot of black people coming into, they're not really respected. It's like some of you feel like they're watching you because they want to see if you're trying to steal something. But places that cater to more money or so-called prestige, or I'll just right out say it, white people, they don't like look at them the same way, and they're more personable to them. You have to, black people, you have to start waking up. Stop focusing on other people outside of your group and want to be the savior for everybody else but yourself. See, you do that because you really don't like yourself. Because you're not addressing your needs. You're addressing everybody else's needs. And these other groups, see, nothing wrong of helping out other people. That's very loving. But you have to start loving yourself. That's also why I'm doing this video. Because I see that many black people don't love themselves. And you're just letting yourself go. And you're letting your health go. Now this place I went to today for the home health aide, all of them were obese. And it's like, hey, you're in a health field, you got to take care of your own health. Take care of your health. Start eating food that promotes wellness to you. You have to start, your health comes first. And you need to educate yourself. You have to do that, because see, you're not educating yourself. You walk around the street with headphones on, listening to really nasty music. Okay, I had to go to Harlem. Harlem is in New York City on 100. It's uptown. And immediately when I came out the train, I started hearing the N-word, the N this, the N that. These two guys, and the whole strip up there. I don't like it. It's just poor quality. See, again, the same type of people who own these shops in Harlem are the same type of people who send their kids to Ivy League schools, who will in the future probably be your bosses, who are the ones who are moving into the luxury apartments. And these are people straight off the boat, so to speak, or whose parents are from other countries. And many of the parents, they don't even speak English, but somehow they don't seem to have a barrier understanding the teacher and getting good grades. They're getting the scholarships. They're highly intelligent people. So what? Black people aren't intelligent? I hear throughout YouTube that black people from ancient Egypt built the pyramids. So if you can build a pyramid, how come you can't build your present life now? You got to ask these questions. Why aren't you on top now? We all know how most of us got here in the Americas, and I'm one of them too. But I'm seeing the same pattern, and I don't see change. I don't see change from 40 years ago to now. And so I start to get anxious sometimes. I start to feel like, boy, why? I thought things were supposed to get better. You see more black people on television, but as you notice, the people that you see on television is really reinforcing much of the stereotypes. Now they're getting blacks. Okay, this one show that I think they cut it off air, something about the music industry, or you have blacks in government, city agency or government jobs. But the men in particular, you got to watch. See, it's an attack on the black man also. And no, this is not to be an anti such and such group, but it's just to open up your eyes. But I see that it's a target against the black male, because again, there's no black males in this health agency, because they have all different types of work in the health field. So it's pushing out a large segment of the black male population, and so you're pushing them out. And where are you pushing them to? You're pushing them on the street. When I was on the train coming home, there was a young black dude. He looked like in his early 20s, and he was doing what they call pole dancing, like, they're wearing something really shabby. They oftentimes go topless. They have these work pants on, and they dance inside in the train, and they have like the pole that you hold on, and they twirl around. And it's like, wow. So these are the type of jobs that American black men are being forced into. They're not being groomed for the office. What they're being groomed to do, if they're not doing that pole dancing, is to sell drugs on the street or to go into the military. Now they can also go into security guard work. Okay, but you'll be getting paid the minimum wage. Okay, one thing, you own the agency, but no, you're not owning the agency. Okay, and also to point out that the agency I did go to, the first place I went to, the person there, she was the director of nursing for that company. And she was a foreign woman. She was from Italy. And she was at the company for 2 years. Okay? She was nice. She seemed very professional, very polite. Now, how come they couldn't find an American black doing that job? There are a lot of blacks who are RNs. There are a lot of them. But see, again, positions that really are catering for blacks to do home health aid care is overseen usually by a white person. So again, it's the same thing. If they get a white person, why couldn't they get at least an American in that position? Why? See, again, I think it's by design. This is all by design, because if it was like New York City, there are a lot of blacks, and they generally from the Caribbean who go into nursing. Okay, so what happened? See that? They don't want blacks in management or supervisory position unless it's an extremely high-stressed job. And I know of someone who was in the health field, and she told me that when she was in a position, she's a black lady, and she was in a position to actually hire. And so she told me that this paper came around, and this paper had codes, and these codes represented the race/ethnicity of the candidate, of the prospect. and that they weren't to send people, black people, to work in certain departments. But this person that I knew, here she's a black woman, and she didn't know initially about the code. And she sent black candidates to these different departments, the departments that they didn't want blacks in. And so someone questioned her. She eventually got fired, and fired because she was sending black people to work in these departments. So again, it's reminiscent when I got my first job in the private sector in a financial institution, and the receptionist, not receptionist, the person in human resources, again, redirected me for the designated place for black people who have a good presentation. Okay? So it's racism. It's racism disguised. They disguise certain things. And so it angers me when I see the disparities of different groups. And again, it's not people of color. It's specifically black people, whether you're black from United States, blacks from the West Indies, black people from Africa, okay? And also they have people from the Caribbean who are Spanish speaking. They kind of throw them in the same boat too, okay? So you have to start addressing your issue, this important issue, because see, this is social engineering by design, designed to mess you over, black community. And that you have to start speaking out, and you have to start training. See, I don't want us to have handouts. Okay, because some of these groups, they work their buns off. Yeah, they work. They work very diligently in school, get good grades, and they're being groomed for excellence. If black people out there, if you really feel that you're the builders of the pyramid, shouldn't you start building your life for excellence, for things to endure like a pyramid? To start healthy and thriving businesses, or enter into businesses, to have the skills to offer clients, okay, for these jobs. You have to start, get to at least get those skills. And if you get those skills and it still won't hire you, okay, that's okay. Get a group of you together and start your own business for your community, so that we're not doing businesses within our community. Learn what they do. I met a girl from a foreign country who, in general, doing very well. And she said when she and her family entered the United States, she was 5 years old at the time. You know what her parents did? They bought, or they got her an encyclopedia. It was the Encyclopedia Britannica. Gave it to her and told her, you ought to read this. You know what they were doing? They were getting her accustomed to Americanisms, the American culture, the language, and all that, because the country where she's from, they do not speak English. Completely different language, completely different alphabet, lettering, everything different culture entirely. This lady, her first job out of college was $70,000. Now hear me, back then I was not a college graduate. I made less than half than what she made. And here I have a work experience for about 14 years, and here she was just a new graduate. So you see what I'm saying? That even though you have the work experience, they're not paying you the same type of salary. They're not paying you what you're worth. Just like the comedian called Monique. And her issue was that they were not offering her the salary of what she is actually worth. Her longevity of 30 years in the industry, and then to also find out that Whoopi Goldberg, according to Monique, that Whoopi Goldberg was getting some, she didn't say the dollar amount of her salary, but the salary that she got from The View was a very low salary, and she was working for The View at that time for 10 years already. 10 years. Okay? And I already mentioned in a past video, when I used to work at a temp agency, this is years and years ago, in the 1980s, and I worked for this temp agency at the time for 2 years about. And I found out that my white counterpart, who was making a problem for the agency, see, back then, the whites were able to get theatrical and make these demands from the client about money, but they don't fire them, okay? And what happened was, the human resource at that client was a black woman, and she told me on the side what was going on with the white female who was receiving, according to her, $18 an hour. Okay, this is over 30 years ago, okay? So this is a lot of money back then. And that her complaint was she wanted more money. And I add this. At that time, I was getting $11 an hour. So I said, what? And again, this white woman was asking me to help her. Back then I did computer work. I was a word processor. And so she didn't know how to do a particular thing. And she asked me to help. That was before I knew what she was making and before she started acting out. She's getting $18 an hour and I'm getting $11 an hour. And then holding me up, it was some backup. And the human resources of the client said, we have to wait until we finalize, or, to come to an agreement with the girl. That one white girl was holding everybody. It was amazing. And then I asked for a raise, and how I asked for the raise was, I called up the agency. I don't remember what day, but I had one day called the agency, and I said, I've been working for you for 2 years, and I've learned many different computer software, word processing software, and my skills have grown, and blah blah blah, and I would like to ask for a raise. So I presented first my growth, what I learned, and what I could enhance my marketability, my enhancement in marketability for the agency, the temp agency. And so they eventually said, okay, we'll give you $13 an hour. But then they didn't give me an assignment. So I kept calling for an assignment. And they kept saying, oh, I'm sorry, we're real slow here, and blah, blah, blah. And I kept calling every day, sometimes more than once a day. And then I said, very naively, okay, I said, boy, you're slow today. I said, wow. I said, how could you stay in business if you're not getting any clients? Something like that. And I was sincere. I wasn't trying to be a smarty pants. I was thinking. See, again, I think very logically, but not knowing. See, I was still naive about a lot of things, about race and racism and all that. But just I didn't understand. She was lying to me. So I said, boy, how do you stay in business? And she says, oh, then she goes, oh, one moment. She puts me on hold. Then she comes back on. Okay, I have an assignment for you. I said, oh, great, great. I was really thankful. That was my very last assignment that they ever gave me. Okay? That's what happened. So, again, they don't want it, like Monique, they don't want to pay you what you're worth. They don't want to pay black people what they're worth. But they're willing to pay whites and others salaries. They could negotiate. See, in their culture and in their work history, they can negotiate. Black people aren't supposed to negotiate according to them. They don't want you to negotiate. They want you to take what's given to you. And what they want to give you, black people, are the low-level jobs, the dead-end jobs, the stressful jobs, the jobs with very little benefits, comforts, amenities. I've worked in offices that have, baby, amenities. It is nice to work in a real plush office. Oh, it's nice. It is nice. It's less stress. It's beautiful. I've had those experiences also. But see, they don't want you, black people. So they're redirecting us, modern times, to do these entry-level jobs that are very stressful. And they're targeting you, black people, to fill those jobs. But they're getting other new groups to work in high-paying jobs with benefits. So when they come to the U.S., graduate, they're recruited by employers, and those are the first ones who get into these high-rise apartment buildings that you see sprouting all over in New York City. Those are the ones who they're putting in these buildings. But we are blacks. Black people are stuck in what they call housing. It's really stressed, very, very cramped, no amenities. See that? They're really telling you who they love. And then you have some, who go into the military. Again, nothing wrong with military. If that's your calling, if that's what you want to do, or are you being forced to go into those industries? I don't see those groups going into those industries, the military. I don't see them. I don't see them doing the home health care. I don't see them doing security guard work. They're not being geared for that. But they're sending you there. Who your children meet. If you live in a building and everyone is a so-called professional, your kids are going to associate with other professionals, so you're going to learn the lingo, the language, the dress, how to dress for these type of jobs, connections. You know someone, hey, there's a job at such and such place. But if you're a poor person living amongst poor people, what type of referral are you going to get? You're going to get referrals in the type of jobs that are being geared for you. So you see there? So it's a wall that's being developed. You on one side and they on the other side. Okay? So it's like an apartheid of employment. And what type of employment? And it's the same pattern as what I saw when I was a young teenager. I was in my late teens, early 20s, and the people that I saw working. And yes, they did cover up, and because I had filed a complaint against them. And the person who was to investigate, they said, "Oh, I don't see any indication of racism. Wow. It's right up. It's something. It is really something. So you have to start educating you have to discuss the issue with your family. You have to start working as a family. See, that's why it's important to have a husband and a wife in a household with the children. You have to work on that, Black people in America. There are too many single lone rangers. See, you divide and conquer. You divide and conquer, and you divide and conquer. And that's what they're doing to you. Dividing your home, kicking out the Black male, having a Black woman stressed out, no one likes her, you're overeating, you don't like yourself, you're loud. Okay, and that's how you're viewed. You're viewed just like that Monique. She's an archetype of the American Black female. No one likes her, okay? No one wants to hire you, or they only hire you to be a bulldog, okay? To intimidate people. Okay, and then you're stressed out, you hit your kids, you bring in riffraff in your home. See that? You need to, in this fight of equality, the first fight is to preserve your home. You need to start preserving your home where you live. You need to keep your families together, man and woman, working together as a team, watching over their children. That's the first step. And you need to start having a personal plan of what direction you want your family to go. And then you need to educate yourself. You need to educate yourself. Now with the internet, you don't even have to go to a library. You can do it in the privacy of your own home and start researching different careers, different fields, find out what the requirements are to certain colleges. See, now they're steering Black people not to go into the colleges, but into trade schools. The trade schools really cater to immigrants who are just coming in to get a job. Maybe somehow they got some monies and they want something quick, so they do that. You have to get out of that, or unless you want to start your own business and you want to learn a field quickly and invest in yourself and to start a business, but you need to start it as a community. You need to get a group of you working together, and that's what the new groups are doing. They work as a team. They work as a team. You have to do it in order to stay afloat. You got to, because I see disaster, and then you're going to play victim, you're going to play impoverished, and then you're going to blame other people for your problems. You need to keep your home intact, and I think that's another reason why this growth in what they call the alternative lifestyle. The alternative lifestyle is really, again, it's your business, what lifestyle you decide for yourself. It's not other people who are to decide for you, but it's what you decide for yourself. If that's what you like, if that's what you want, that is your business. Go for it. But if it's not, and if you feel that you're being railroaded to choose that other lifestyle, see, they want you to choose that lifestyle because then it's going to separate the husband and wife. So you don't reproduce. You don't have children then if they're encouraging women with women, men with men. Okay? You see what I'm getting at? The tactics, what they're doing is to dissolve the Black family. It is to dissolve the Black family, and also white families too is being promoted, but mostly Black people, it seems like, in New York City. They're promoting that. They're encouraging that. But again, if that's your choice of lifestyle, that is your business, and I'm not here to condemn them. But I'm just saying the tactics that are being used against the Black community in order to dissolve its strength, its vitality, okay? It's being sucked out. And again, the monies. You're using your money in the wrong area. You're using your money for things that don't have continuity. And what do I mean by continuity? I mean something that you could push forward for generation after generation. Things that have longevity. Things that have a future. You focus on things and you get things that are short-lived. Consumables. It's nothing. If you own it and if you sell that's one thing. But when you just consume it and take it, the product doesn't do anything for you. It's short-lived. Buying things for your hair and your nails is short-lived. You need to invest in something longer. Something, you need to learn how to do things. You need to start learning how to make things. Maybe make your own soap. Learn how to sew your own clothes. To do house repairs. Like for me, I learned how to make soap. I make my own soap. I haven't bought a bar of soap since I think 2014. Okay? Learn how to do things. Learn how to make things with your hands. See, in the past, American blacks, because of slavery, the nature of slavery, you had all the skills. You had all the skills. You were the craftsmen. You knew how to cook. You knew how the cleaning industry. You did all the cleaning. All this works. You did the trade. You did many of the trades. And then what happened? You had those hate groups from the South. They scared you and pushed you off and had you move up north. That's what their plan was. To move you up north. I mean, yes, they had slavery up north too. But it wasn't as extensive as it was in the Southeast. The Northeast had slavery, but it was not, the industry wasn't as intense of work, okay? I mean, the amount of people that they had up north as slaves, it wasn't as much. It was in the South primarily. And so the skills, they wanted they wanted to remove your knowledge. Okay, they wanted your knowledge removed. Your knowledge of, let's say, how to take care of horses, how to take care of cows and sheep, how to do gardening, how to raise cotton, how all this industry, how to make wheelbarrows, how to do iron work. You knew all those crafts. They force you up north, and then they force you to live in cramped urban centers. You're surrounded by white people, and and here you help them win the war, the Civil War, but then they didn't respect you. They didn't hire you, yet you helped them. You sacrificed your life during the war. But what did they do when you moved up north? They recruited Europeans to come to the United States, and they gave them farmlands. But they didn't give you farmlands. The farmland that they had for you in the South was taken away from you shortly after the Reconstruction period. They took it away. Some families were initially given land, and then they took the land back, the Southern whites, and gave it back to the prior owners of that land. You see? So now they have you off the property, living in urban centers, and now your skills. You don't have your skills anymore. You forgot them in in a short amount of generations. Okay? And now you live in these urban centers like I do, and you just walk around and you don't know what to do. It's pathetic. Where I live is really getting bad now. You see, like, where did I go today? Yeah, there was a lot of young black men on the street, and they some of them look real spooky. I start wondering what is going on. What is going on? These are lost souls. Okay? And then you have that other component that's being pushed onto the community. As I said, the alternative lifestyle. And it seems like they're going into this alternative lifestyle for money. That who they be with, they give them money. So it's almost like prostitution. It's really something. Again, what you like is what you like, what you're into, but it's about what's happening socially. So it's almost like they're promoting certain lifestyles so that, hey, you know, so and so, if I learn how to do that, this white dude would give me money to do that to him. And they're doing it. And they're also doing that in the West Indies too. Yeah, oh yes. Oh yes, that's what's happening. So now you don't know how to be a man anymore. What happens to the women? Isolated. And some people go both ways, and so now you have a large number of black women with HIV. Black women is the largest group in this country with HIV, the fastest growing group, because you have people who are in these alternative lifestyles who are back dipping, and the partner doesn't know about it. So it's a consequence of your behavior. So I'm also sharing that you have to know how your actions are going to cause, you know, how it's going to affect somebody else. Is what you're going to do going to help the community as a whole, or is it going to hurt it? It's hurting us. So if you really love yourself, you'll change. You have to change. Because it's going to be taken away from you in 10 years or less, I see. It's going to happen quickly. And, you know, you gotta, I really feel sad. I'm very, very sad about all this. I felt like helpless. It's like you're looking around and you can clearly see what's happening. And I don't see them doing anything. It's so sad. You're being fooled, black people. You're being fooled. You're being tricked. They want you to fight for other people, other people's rights, but they never come to your aid. Never. It's nice to help people, but it's nice to also help yourself and demand those other people to fight for you too. If you fight for others, those other people should also fight for you, but they're not fighting for you. They're not. Because they're selfish. And they really don't respect you, and they don't respect your money. As I mentioned earlier, I went to a place yesterday, and I felt that they weren't respecting me. I mean, it's just something. And I just started noticing most of the people that were coming in there all seemed to be black people. So even though they're getting your money, you're using their, you know, you're not acting out, you're respectable. But that care. See, they don't care about you. Start caring about yourself. Start conducting yourself in a respectable way. Start, walk with dignity. Fix yourself up. Take care of your home. Have your children come home from school. Demand it. Demand that they do their homework. Demand that if they want to watch television or computer time, they have to have these things done. You know what I'm getting at? You have to start disciplining your children. Mothers, you need to start disciplining your sons. You just have the sons just doing whatever. Okay? But your daughters, it seems like you train them a little better. But you have to start training your sons. Okay? You have to start training them. And they're not going out with you either, many of them. Because you act like a man. A lot of you are acting like men. There's nothing feminine about you. About many of us. And so then you wonder why these black guys don't want to go out with you, because you act like a man. Start acting like a woman. You want to know what a woman acts like? Go and look at what they're going out with. Watch and study. See, just like when I told you that I started studying how my counterpart, how those people in high positions, how they dressed, how they carried themselves, how they did their resumes. I studied them at a distance. I studied every aspect that I could understand about them, and I copied it in order to compete in getting entry into the jobs. It was still very difficult, but I had it a little better than most of the blacks. Okay? Start studying what they like and be that. But, be you, be your true self. Men, especially men who are from harsh environment, they don't want an aggressive-ass woman. They want a feminine, soft woman. Be that. Study that. Turn off your TV also. Don't even turn on your TV. Start reading books. Read books together as a family. Learn a subject. Learn it together. Say, hey, study what your strengths are. What are your strengths? What are your children's ability? And then start developing that. You have to start young. You have to even start before they're born. You have people who start before their kid is born. They're investigating what schools that have the best graduation rate and SAT scores, all that. They study, they find out which one is the top, and then they move into that community. So their kids could be sent to that school. That's also what they do. Okay, you have to start thinking smart. Start studying what these people are doing. Find out and do it for your family. And be selective about where you spend your money, and that includes the church. I've mentioned this many times. You send too much money of your hard-earned money to churches who don't support you. And I think many of the churches are behind the sabotage of the black community. And a lot of these pastors are Masons and the like. And they're being instructed to hold you down. Study them. They get your money. Watch them. You don't see them being built up. I've been in churches. I used to be a Christian. I'm no longer a Christian, but I was a devout Christian for most of my adult life. And then something said, it's not working out. Something's not sitting right. You see all these churches, but they don't do a finger for the community. It's there to siphon your money. You don't think what's going on. You got to start thinking, people. They're destroying you. And you don't realize it. They are actually your enemy. I know that's a harsh word. Yeah, they're sucking your money out. Start investing in yourself. Where the church lies? The church lies inside your heart. The church And God lives within you. It's not in some building. If you're using it as a community to build each other up, to have a community, but using the church as a focal point, and then to build up that community, that's something else. But that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening, and you know it. It's being used to siphon out money, and then they're sending it to who knows where. See, they're Masons, so they're funneling it to the, what they call, what's that, the cabal. Ultimately, it's going, the money is being siphoned into the cabal to destroy you, and you don't realize it. Start investing in yourself and in your children. Stop hitting your children. Stop belittling your children in public. You're awful. When I went to Harlem, it's like, wow, you don't know how to treat your children. If I was a foreigner coming into these neighborhoods, these predominantly black and West Indian and African communities, I would flee. It's awful. It's awful. The language that you use is awful. It's like, wow. Those new immigrants, you don't hear them going like that. They like themselves. And they like nice things, and they're willing to work for it. Okay? So let me see here. I was so busy just talking a lot. I see here in the chats. Let me see. Okay. Yes, hi, mind over matter. Yeah, I got so into what I was talking about. It didn't. I'll read the comments. So let me read yours. Okay, mind over matter. It says, I met a Jamaican lady who wanted to study home help. They do the course in Jamaica and fly to America after. The course is about 1,000 US dollars. They love to keep black women trapped in these low-paying jobs. Right, that is why I have stopped contracting. You are being used on both sides. You are just being honest. You are not being negative. You are not putting anyone down. But when there is a predominance of a certain group of people, you have to ask why. Yes. They don't hire blacks who have studied accountants. They would prefer a certain type with no education and train them. Yeah, that can happen too. But again, in banking, in finance, you have to have a degree. That they prefer that. They want you, because see, if they just hire, then they could just hire any black person then and train them. But no, they don't want you in positions of power. And in banking, and I started out in banking, that again, as I mentioned in the very beginning of this live stream, that they steer black people away from certain departments, and the application that they have many times, I found out from someone who I know who is in the health field actually, and she was in a position of hiring people. And she did not know that the application had codes. And yes, she found out eventually what those codes were. The codes were to designate about the race/ethnicity, and that what departments people of certain backgrounds were there to be designated to work for. Okay, that's what was happening. And she got fired when she insisted to have blacks and other so-called minorities to work in those departments, or to be considered in certain departments. They let her go. Okay, let me see what else. That's what I did off and on all my life. Home health care. I can't do it anymore because I am not strong enough to have another life in my hands. Yes. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Lynn Renee Fisher. Thank you for your words. She also says, hi from Texas, where it is hotter than Yeah, Hades today. Oh, wow. Yeah, today it's very rainy, and it was in the 70s. See, who wants a man? Sounds like more trouble than it's worth. Laugh out loud. Yeah, let's see what else. I could get anyone a home health job here as long as they don't have a felony record. Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing that information. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to do this research and trying to find. I went to one place that actually was an agency for the health care field, and the other one was a broker. And that's also what I mentioned here earlier in this live stream, that, see, they're siphoning money off of black people again. See, they're getting brokers to intercept the person who wants to get into the home health care field, and then they take those people and then they send them to an employment agency, and so they get a fee. So that person's money is getting less and less because you have the broker who's getting the fee, and then the agent gets the fee from the client who hires. Okay? You also you have to you have to educate yourself, women. Don't go to the broker. Don't go to the broker. Go directly to the agency or freelance, or get a business card and start handing them out to prospective individuals who need a home health aide. Okay? Yeah, you got to be smarter. Stop having people take money from you. Okay? Okay, so it says, if you need help, okay, Lynn also says, if you need help, I would just put an ad in the newspaper and do interviews. I'll tell that other person that's a possibility that they could do something like that. Very good idea, actually. Very, very good idea. But, putting ads in the newspaper is very expensive. Very, very expensive. But, if you want to get what you want to get, you got to spend money sometimes. So I'll pass this information on. Very, very good idea, though. Yeah. So does anyone else have any other things you want to share or ask me? Yeah, I see that I've been on now for over an hour and a half. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. It was really pressing on me. And yeah, I'm thinking these days now, I was surprised that I'm doing this. I'm surprised that I'm doing this live stream, because I feel now I want to start. I'm getting too emotional, I think. I'm getting emotional about things that's happening in the country, in where I live, and I really need to go within. I need to start looking more within myself and to build myself up. I'm getting too distracted in all the what I call the melee and things. So yeah, I want to do more reading. I have tons of books behind me, tons of books that I want to dive deeply in. And again, also my hands have been bothering me. I've been on doing the video editing, and my whole hand is hurting me. And so I'm thinking, hey, maybe it's just a sign that I'm to lay low for a while. Yeah, I want to take care of me. But if something is really pressing me, yeah, just like this, I'm doing a live stream. I'm not editing. I'm just, boom, putting it out there. And maybe that's my best bet for now. So I think that's what's really going on right now. I might just lay low for a while and to build myself up and to get refocused and try to plan out how I want to live my life in all this stuff. Yeah, because as they say, some people say this is all an illusion, life is an illusion. We're getting all petty and angry about politics and stuff, but it really means nothing. Okay, Linda's saying something else here. She says, is there a place to dig for gems around you? Any minds? Ah, interesting question. Very good question. Where do you get the gems these days? Yeah, the gems are within ourselves. We have to stop polishing our lives so we become that great gem. If you're not equipped, how could you help others or community? So that's also where I'm coming from right now, that I want to start perfecting myself, and I don't want to be so focused on things. I want to be focused on more spirituality. I think that's really important for me right now, and to take care of my health and everything. So I can't think of anything else, but I'm very grateful that my viewers here, and you've been with me for these times, and I appreciate your encouragement. I appreciate your longevity on my channel. And yes, so definitely share my videos with friends, family members. You can subscribe and comment below. And as I say these days, to give me the thumbs up. Okay? Take care, guys. Bye-bye.